Hello guys, welcome back. This is our fourth lecture for the Cypress tutorial with the framework creation. So in the previous lecture, we have discussed about the Cypress architecture, installation, and how to run the Cypress basic test using the command runner. So the link is given in the description box. So please go through it if required. So in this lecture, we will go through with the run the Cypress test cases using the command line, and then we will go through the Cypress folder structure and what all the importance of the default framework that is provided by the Cypress. So go one by one. We will start with the executing the Cypress test cases using the command line. So in the previous lecture, we have seen about the test runner and the while using the double click on the test runner, it will execute the test case. And in the right hand side section also, we can select the browser and all the things. But if you want to run the same test cases using the test runner, for that we will refer the Cypress official website, and that the page called command line. Command line is the page, and then we can refer the how to run commands. So if you scroll down, they are saying Cypress run is the command that will execute all the test cases for your package. Means whatever the test cases that is present under the integration example folder, if you type the Cypress run command, it will execute the test cases. Let's try it. Then for that, basically, I have told you already, we have to navigate to the node modules and then bin folder, and then only we are able to run the all the Cypress commands. So for that, dot slash node modules, then dot bin, then command is Cypress run. Just press enter. It will start the execution. Currently, we have only one test cases under the example test cases. So it start executing, running the scenario. It's running. Maybe it will take 1 or 2 minutes for executing the scenario. And it's passed now. Two passing and it's completed. But what happened? Video is not, the browser is not opened and the test case is executed and is completed successfully. So they are saying like if we use the Cypress run command, by default it will run the test case in the headless mode using the Electron browser. So if you run the Cypress command, browser will not open, the test case will execute in the headless mode. Basically, definitely is increase the performance and reduce the execution time. That's why they are providing the headless option as a by default, and it's using the Electron browser that is basically inbuilt of the Chrome only for the execution. But what if we want to see the execution and open the browser for the execution purpose? So for that, we have one option called --headed. If you pass that option, display the browser instead of running headlessly. So execute the same command. In the last, you have to pass hyphen hyphen headed parameter. If you type that, in that case, browser will open and execute the test cases in the headed mode, not the headless mode. So it will open the browser, the Electron browser, and complete the execution. This time you are able to see that browse Cypress test runner is opening. It's loading the test, and it will load the google.com page that is written in now our test cases. So it will open the test cases, it will loading the google.com URL, and is successful now. So by default, it will run in the headless mode. But if you want to run the same scenario in the headed mode, you have to just pass the hyphen headed parameter. And it will execute all the test cases that is present inside that particular integration.examples. But what happens if we have 100 of test cases and you want to run only the specific test case, not want to run the all 100 of test cases? Then what are the possibilities for that? For that, basically, if you scroll down this page and search for the spec, yes. So basically, the all the JavaScript file is known as a spec file in the framework. So if you want to run any specific file in the your test cases, you have to just pass Cypress run. Just ignore this record option. We will explore this later. And then we have to pass the hyphen hyphen spec, and then we have to pass the path of that particular spec file that we want to run. So just copy that command, this spec portion. Just we need to copy. Go to the Visual Studio. I'm removing this headed option. We have to pass this hyphen hyphen spec, and our test case inside the Cypress integration, and then example. Just remove it. Example, and then the test case name is sample test.js. .js. That's it. So if you run this command, if you have the currently we have only one test case, so it will execute the same test case only. But if in the future, if you have the multiple test cases, in that case it will execute the only the single test case. And for that we can use, if you want to have the requirement to run the specific test cases, we just need to pass this hyphen hyphen spec command, and then we can run the specific test cases. And the one and last thing is like for using the command, by default is it is using the Electron as a browser. But what if the requirement is to running your test case into the Chrome or the Edge or Firefox and or the different browser? It is also possible to run that case on the any other browser. You have to just pass a parameter. Just type Cypress run, and then you have to pass the parameter hyphen hyphen browser. And if you want to run the same test case on the Chrome, just type Chrome. So if you just type the hyphen hyphen browser parameter and provide the input, it will execute the same test cases on that particular browser. By default, it's using the Electron browser as a default one, but if you want to run the test cases on the specific browser, you can pass hyphen hyphen browser option. So these are all the options available. We have the multiple option available, but these are the basic option that is required to run the Cypress test cases using the command line. So till now, whatever we have covered the Cypress run command that will execute all the test cases that is present inside the integration example folder in the headless mode, and by default it will use the Electron browser. If you want to run the same test cases in the headed mode, then you have to pass the parameter hyphen hyphen headed. Then it will use the headed mode and use the Electron as a default browser. If you want to run on the specific browser, then you have to pass the Cypress run and then pass the hyphen hyphen browser parameter, and then you can pass the browser name to run the test cases on the specific browser. And the fourth one, if you have the multiple test cases inside the integration example folder and you want to run a specific test case, then you have to pass the hyphen hyphen spec parameter and then provide the particular test cases path. Then it will execute only that particular test cases, not the others. So these are the command basically that we can use while the executing the Cypress test cases using the command line. In the next topic, we will discuss about the Cypress folder structure. In the last lecture, I have told you whatever the test cases, we have the integration inside the example folder, Cypress will execute. But by default, you are able to see we have the fixture folder, we have integration folder, then plugins folder, then support folder, then videos. So that's the default framework is provided by the Cypress. So that means that every folder have its meaning and the responsibilities. So what are those? So we will start with the first one. First one is the fixture folder. So as I mentioned in the document, fixture folder is used to store test cases data. So whatever the data that we are required for the test cases, we can maintain that data inside this fixture folder. So what if you discuss about the Selenium and all, if you want to use the Excel or something else in the some other automation tool like Selenium and all, you have to write a particular code for that, then you have to load that Excel, and then you have to parse that data, and then you can use in your test cases. But in the Cypress, if you define your test case data inside this example, inside this fixture folder, that test data is automatically available for your test cases. Means no need to write any code, you can directly use the data that is available inside the fixture folder. So I'm just opening like one file is there, example.json. If you open that, there some data is there like name, email and body. So that data is already available for that your test case. So if you want to use this name value or the email value or something, no code is required for that. You can directly use that particular value in your test cases. So for the maintaining the test case data, we can use the fixture folder in the Cypress. Second one is the integration inside the example folder. We are quite aware of this is required for the writing the all the test cases. So whatever the test cases we writing for our framework, Cypress is suggesting to use the integration example folder to write your test cases. You can write anywhere, but Cypress by default is suggesting if you're using default framework, use the integration example folder for the writing the test cases. So if you run the Cypress run command, by default it will go to the integration example folder and run all the test cases that is present there. So it's using for the writing all the test cases. Third one is the plugins. That is basically is not much useful folder, but plugins folder is basically is used to handle the Cypress event. It's basically kind of the listener. Suppose you want to handle some event before opening the browser, or you want to perform some action like minimize the browser or maximize the browser or something. For that, you have to write the browser event or something. So these kind of the event we can handle inside this plugin folder. But for that, basically, we have the multiple approaches using that we can handle these kind of the event. So that is we can use in our test cases. So that's why I'm saying it's not much useful. But basically, if you type about the framework part, it is used to handle the Cypress event or basically the listeners. And the fourth one is the support folder. Support folder is used for the write the reusable command or the reusable method. So if you talk about you want to write some reusable method, you can directly write the reusable method into any of the class and you can use it. Yeah, definitely you can use it. But if you use this support folder and the write your reusable method inside that command.js file, it will automatically available for your test cases. If you write in the some other class, then you have to explicitly import that class and then you have to create the object for that class and then you can use that code. But if you are using the support folder, then no need to create any object and no importing is required. You can directly use that commands into that or the reusable method to your test cases. So that is basically for writing the reusable code or the method. Video is basically the very good feature. Whatever the test cases you have executed, it will record the video for that. It's a video for the sample.js.mp4. So for the debugging purpose, you want to check like what went wrong and why the test cases are failing. You just check that video and you can debug that. So it's a very good feature using that the debugging is made very easy. So using the videos folder, it will record all the videos for the whatever the test cases we have executed. So the if you talk about the folder structure part, we have covered the fixture that is used for the store the test data, integration for the test cases writing, plugin for handling the Cypress event or the listeners, and support that we can use the reusable functions. And the video is basically for the test cases video purpose. Whatever the video execution we have performed, it recorded the video for that automatically. The sixth one is now the Cypress.json is used for the Cypress configuration. So for that, I will first open that Cypress test runner. Then I will explain you what is it. Clear. Then node modules pin and then drive Cypress open. Open is the command to open the test runner. So in the settings part, if you open the configuration, all the default configuration that is provided by the Cypress is available here. So you can see the expect timeout is 60 seconds, and then the fixture folder file is Cypress, then fixtures, and all these things in the plugins folder called cypress.plugin. So these are the things is by default provided by the Cypress. So if you are executing the test cases, if the element is not available, it by default wait for the 6 second, and it will, if the in the 6 second is not available, then it will fail the test cases. We see by default the command timeout is 4000. So these all the default configuration is available by the Cypress. But whatever, if you want to increase the time from the 60,000 to 80,000, or this 4,000 to 5,000, or just need to change this fixture folder file, for that configuration Cypress is providing the cypress.json file. So if you just copy that command and go to the cypress.json file, this one, open that. So it's empty now. So suppose if you want to change some value, just copy that command from the test runner, paste it here, and then you can change the value whatever you want. Whatever value you want, you just change that value for that. It's a JSON file, so you have to define the JSON format. So just define the proper JSON format, and then you can run that. So it will override that particular value, and now the new value is the 5000. So whatever the configuration we want to change, based on our test cases need, we need to define these test cases in the cypress.json file. I will show you the example also here. I can search for cypress.json, the configuration. So these are the cypress.json file, and these all the options is available that we can redefine in our test cases. So whatever you option you can override, want to override, you can override those. In a similar way, in the JSON format, you just go and copy this. You want to change the viewport height, or you want to change the bend, like height, width, bandwidth, anything you want to change, just copy it here, one extra bracket, and you can override these values. So this is basically is used to change the default Cypress configuration. Whatever the value you want to change it, you can change it. So these are, so that's all for this lecture. In this lecture, basically we have covered the all the Cypress command and how to execute them. Then I will explain you the Cypress folder structure, and that importance of the default folder structure, and then cypress.json, and how we change the default configuration using the cypress.json file. So I will upload that document along with the video. You can check that. And if you have any queries, you can reach out to me on the LinkedIn. URL is given into the description box. In the next lecture, we will create our first Cypress test cases and then start the executing the Cypress command, different types of the Cypress command. So thanks all. Thanks for your time. Thank you.